Hi there, I'm Pigtail Girl. This episode of the Time Chronicles is the most unique and thought-provoking show that Starfire Tor and I have done to date. It's been a long time in the making. In many ways, this show is a gift of enlightenment from us to you. From out of the shadows, where the most protected secrets live, there is one who has kept a secret that, if shared, would forever alter the way that the world thinks about UFOs, ETs, Earth, and the universe.
I'm Starfire Tor. With much thought and soul-searching, this person has decided to speak. This person is an authentic ET-human hybrid who is a being created from an ET-human bioengineering program. This person has lived in both the ET and the human world and has direct knowledge and experience of the ET presence on Earth. I should know. I am that ET human hybrid. When Pigtail Girl and I decided that I was going to step out from the shadows, we did it for a number of reasons, and you're going to find out about those reasons shortly as the show progresses. But during the course of letting you all know that we were doing a show where an actual authentic ET human hybrid was going to speak, I didn't say it was me, but I did ask, does anybody have any questions? And we sure did get a lot of questions. And Pigtail Girl and I thought that, we're going to cover all of these questions and you're going to get your answers. And this isn't going to be the only show that we're going to do on this topic. We're hoping that it becomes popular because you're going to hear things from me, particularly, that may counter some of the information from other folk that you've heard about ETs and UFOs, both historically and currently on planet Earth. Well, I'm on the inside. I lived it. So when you hear it from me, if it contradicts something that you heard somebody else say, please consider that the information you're getting from me is the real deal. Okay, great. So Pigtail Girl is going to read out the questions and the first name of the people who asked it. And of course, after the show, after you've heard it, I'm hoping that you'll have more questions and we'll be glad to answer them. So Pigtail Girl's going to ask the questions and then we're going to cover the answers as the show progresses, as I said. Okay, Pigtail Girl, there you go.
Okay, and I just want to say what an honor it is to do this podcast with you, Starfire, to be the one that you felt comfortable enough with to bring out this huge secret, really, this massive truth bomb that you've been sort of keeping under your collar, really, for some time. So for me, this is quite an honor to do this with you and to read the questions.
Yeah. Well, I also want to say that there is a very small handful of friends who know the secret of mine. Some of them, I will not name them, but some of them are scientists, are people that you actually know in the ET UFO community. They just keep the secret. But there's something that very special with some of them. And that is they, independent of me, have had their own either ET and or UFO experience. And Pigtail Girl is one of those people. In fact, years ago, she found me and there was just something that I was saying about my discoveries of the core matrix and everything that it just felt right to her. So she began to do videos about what I was saying in her own words, in her own terms, and she brought it to my attention, and that's how we met. Then Pigtail Girl told me about her UFO experience, and I would like you to tell that to them now, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, I don't mind at all. It's nice for them to sort of people who haven't tuned in before to sort of get an understanding, who we are and where we're coming from, because we do have
Right.
an interesting connection through that ET reality. And it's a connection that I haven't shared with that many other people, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
And perhaps that's what drew us together, because when I was quite young, I was about 17. One really outstanding UFO experience I had was about 3 o'clock at night, right near my house. A silver disc appeared right over a neighbor's house, right in front of me. I mean, it really did appear from nowhere and just zoom down,
And you were
hover.
in the UK, right?
Yeah, this is in the UK, in a little town just outside of London.
Yeah.
Um,
You don't
and
have to
so,
name it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a suburb, the burbs,
Yeah.
little houses with little fences, gardens, that kind of place. And not a kind of place you'd expect to see a UFO actually at all, like really. And it really appeared to me in such a way. And at the time, I was very much into Star Trek. I'd had a lot of lucid dreams. I'd seen aliens in my dreams that would come to me as cat people. I'd often see cat people because
Mhm.
I was a cat person. So I thought nothing much of it. I just thought, oh, I love cats. I see cat people
Mhm.
in my dreams. Why wouldn't I? And then I had this very tangible UFO experience where the craft just appeared to me. I was with a friend at the time as well. We both saw it together.
What did the craft look like?
It was I called it a fried egg shape. Like a round disc with a slight raise at the top that would be like the yolk of the egg, and it
Yeah.
was
Like a
silver.
dome.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like a dome, a typical, like exactly how you'd imagine one to look in a sci-fi movie, with lights
Right.
around the bottom, white lights, but the lights didn't go all the way around. I just remember they were a horseshoe shape of light. So there wasn't, some at the end weren't on, but around the front it was like a horseshoe of white lights. Um, and there was no windows. I couldn't see anything. It just looked completely silver metal. And it was not that large. It was only a small craft because it came right down, though. I mean, when I say right down above me, I could have taken a tennis ball and bounced it off the side of the UFO. That's how close it came down
That's
above me.
incredible.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
really right there. Couldn't miss it. It was like, hello. And it was about the size, I say, of 2 or 3 London buses. If anyone knows what a coach, I know in the USA you have coaches. Imagine, a passenger coach,
Right.
about 2 or 3 of those long, I would say. And it came down, didn't really make any noise, and moved incredibly quickly in a way I've never seen anything move before. And it just stood there in front of me for about 10 to 12 seconds. That was it, just enough time for me to have a really good look at it. And then it just zoomed off the way it came. It was
Did
literally just a hi there, and then off it went.
Right. Did you have any, thoughts that were in your head at the time that this was happening, or any images, that were
No,
happening, or
no,
okay.
none. Honestly, back then, I mean, let me give some perspective. At the time, I
Sure.
was just a raver. I'd left dance college. I was smoking cigarettes. I was literally standing there because I was having a cigarette with my friend, because
Mhm.
we weren't allowed to smoke in my house, and we'd just been out partying that night. And my
Mhm.
mind, as I looked at it, was empty. I was in absolute bewilderment, shock, awe. I mean, I think my mouth must have fallen open. There was not one thought in my mind. I literally couldn't believe what I was seeing in the moment. I was speechless, is the only way I can describe it.
Right. Now, when you say cat people,
Mm,
I don't mean people who like cats. I mean with the ETs. Can
yeah.
you expand on that a little bit?
Well, sometimes they would look like tiger people, where they would
Mhm.
have like fur with stripes,
Mhm.
orange, white, black, and little cat ears, but face like a humanoid. So eyes, but maybe the
Right.
nose a little bit more cat-like, and a mouth.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and they could speak, and they would be on 2 legs. So they look humanoid, and they would be
Yeah,
wearing
humanoid, right.
suits. They would
Mhm.
be wearing like little suits, and they would. How I'd see these ones in a dream is that I would be guided down the street of where I live. I'd have these
Mhm.
dreams where I was being guided at nighttime down a street. Few people were coming out of their houses. No one else was being pulled, but it was like something was pulling us. And then we'd have this token in our hand that would be the shape of a hexagon, like a 50 pence piece. If you're in England, 50 pence piece. It looked like a
Right.
50 pence piece in English money. It's like a kind of hexagon or octagon shape. And I'd be taken into my town center where there would be a door. I'd place this token in the door, that shape. It would open. I'd be in a waiting room where I'd be given milk and cookies by these cat people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the dream I'd have.
Do you remember what time of year you had the sighting?
It was, I think, the end of summer.
And you said you were about 17.
Yeah.
What year might that be?
So, I was born in 1975, so that must have been about 1992.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time in the UK, so I'm just wondering about that. Okay, well, independently, you and I decided that this experience that you had somehow was connected to our meeting decades later.
I believe so. I believe it was some group was saying hello to me at a point in my life where I was still totally open and not really, I had no dogma or idea really that much of reality at that point. Just to
Hmm.
stick in my mind that later on in my life where I would become what's the word, exposed to this information, because at this point I hadn't
Right.
been exposed to that information. No one I knew believed in aliens or talked about aliens. I was totally not in any scene involved with that type of information or
Right.
around people that believed in those things. So it was
Right.
really like a wake up call just to remind me, so that when I would be in the future, this is what I believe, where I would now have to start getting into those things to do my life's purpose, as it were, that I would remember, they are real because I've seen them. It was like my mind had been changed, and
Right.
I
Well,
personally believe that's why they visited me that day.
right. So I just want to mention that previously, privately, Pigtail Girl had mentioned to me about the craft sighting and James, but this is the first time that she's actually revealed to me the cat features that she began to dream about. Now, so what she's going to learn from me is that she saw something that actually exists. And um, later on in the show, we're going to show you um, some images of what some of these ETs that I knew look like, and one of them is very cuddly. So, is to me, this person's a real sweetie. So, let's move on now. Picture
Okay.
girls, you can ask these questions, and we'll move on.
Yeah, well, the first question I think we've already established, but it's from Gwen, and I'll still ask it. What
Mhm.
is the hybrid's name? What is your name?
We know it's Starfire Tour,
Truth bomb.
right?
Yeah, that's a big truth bomb. We
Yeah,
just need to be aware of what a truth bomb that is.
right.
And then next question is from Lovely Army, and she asked, if I get a visitor, how would I know if I'm dealing with an ancestor, like a true ET ancestor, or a DMA infected ET? Now that's a great question.
Right. And we will, as the show progresses, I'll remind people what the DMA is, the dark
Yes.
matter aberration. Okay. And in fact, Army asked quite a few questions, so you might as well just count them off.
Shall I ask them all in
Mm.
one go so you can answer them as a
I
group?
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Okay. Yeah.
so.
Because then you can explain it. All right. So number two, do they cloak themselves or change appearances when out and about, or just their vehicles? So, do they cloak themselves or change their own appearance, or is it just the appearance of their vehicles they cloak or
Right.
disguise?
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I am going to go back and answer Army's first two questions just in case I don't get back to it.
Hmm.
The dark matter aberration, as I have taught for decades, is this energy that's part of dark matter. It's damaged, and it is the cosmic vampire of the universe. It goes around the universe and infests unprotected habitats and planets and just drains them of the energy. And when it does, it it can literally destroy life on a planet. And many thousands of years ago, the DMA infested the Earth. Now, Pigtail Girl and I have done a number of podcasts in which I've discussed the DMA, the origins, and I suggest that everybody watching this go back and binge watch all of our shows in order. Then a lot of what we're talking about here, there's a deep dive and you'll understand it. So, Army, one of the absolutely main ways to know if you are dealing with one of the original and very kind ETs, that bioengineered humans, I call them the ET Earth Consortium. Well, they are kind. You're not going to feel fear. You're not going to get nonsense information from them. If you're dealing with the DMA infected ET, those are a version of what are called the reptilians. They induce fear. They put certain information programs into people's heads. If you're a descendant of the original bioengineered people that the ET Earth Consortium, well, bioengineered, they put implants into the brain. The DMA infested reptilians are not capable of doing that. So they stick their implants everywhere but in your ear, the base of a skull, in your hand, in your arm, in your leg, and they actually can travel through the body. That's a big red flag that if that's where if you are an authentic abducted person, and that's where you become aware that your implant is, you are not dealing with what I call the good guys. Okay. Now, I also want to mention that when I say the ET Earth Consortium, I made up those words. I made them up to define who they are. ET, extraterrestrial, Earth, well, the planet, and consortium means a group. These are a large group of ETs who came here via something called panspermia, and I'll discuss that later on. Okay, so Army also asked, do they cloak themselves or change appearance
Mhm.
when out and about, or just their vehicles? Oh, great question. No, they don't cloak themselves. Even the reptilians. I know this is so popular that these reptilians can shapeshift, and they can shapeshift into anything they want. That's not true. They cannot shapeshift. But crafts can be made to look like a number of things, to fake you out. But they don't need to really do that because they can also go invisible. So it all depends on the tech that's being used. Okay. So just remember, no ET that has anything to do between the light and the dark on this planet can change their shape. There's a little itty bitty bitty bit of an exception, and that are the ETs that have become known as angels. Angels are not religious figures. They were just hijacked into that. These are ETs, and they came here after the DMA infested reptilians. And they've been here ever since. They exist in what I'm going to call a pocket dimension attached to the Earth, and they can come and go, and they can alter their appearance because a lot of them work off of pure energy. And the origin of these people is very closely related to the soul, which is a form of sentient stardust. So angels are very clever, and they can morph themselves to look like various entities, even animals, but no other ET can do that. Okay, PG, continue on with Army's questions.
Okay, so she asks, are screen memories a fact?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Screen memories are used by both the ET Earth Consortium and the DMA infested reps and some of the humans that they work with, because they do. Um, when you're dealing with the ET Earth Consortium, they put in screen memories that are very pleasant so that you don't remember that you were with them on their craft. And then when the ET Earth Consortium does pick up a descendant of the original bioengineered ET human hybrids, their memory immediately comes back. They're very comfortable. This is like old friend week. And there's absolutely no preaching, no, you're not an emissary to send messages to the earth or the human race. They don't do that. That's not how they function. But if you're part of the DMA infested reps and also any of the soulless humans that they work with, the minions, you'll get all sorts of lots of screen memories depending on what program they're running. And sometimes they pretend that they're wonderful, they're great, they're good. They want you to have information that you want to send to the planet. And, it's all about saving the planet and saving you and everything. And it's nonsense. It's nonsense. The ET Earth Consortium, which are the authentic, sanctioned people who bioengineered modern humans, they always told the people that they bioengineered who they were, who the bioengineered humans were, who the ETs were. They walked among them, they taught them. It was beautiful. The programs, the screen memory programs that people are given because they are meant to believe that, like I said, that they're in some really, really special relationship when they're really being used, so that a false program of information is being put out to the people of the planet for whoever would, glom onto them. And it's been that way for, I don't know, since the 30s, I guess, the 1930s. Okay.
Okay. So, question number 4. What are the top 3 reasons that normal people see UFOs or are being visited by ETs?
Well, as I briefly discussed about why people would be visited, the ET Earth Consortium does do checkups on descendants of the original bioengineered humanoids.
And by that, do you mean the
Yeah,
ones that have souls who are not the minion type? Or is because aren't we all descendants or is
yes,
that
I
not
was
the
just about to
case?
say that every single human that's existing today is an ET hybrid, and then became an ET human hybrid through the creation of babies. But people see UFOs a lot of times because they're not really seeing ET craft; they're seeing something else because they're misidentifying things, or they may be seeing something that the mill is putting out there that you're not supposed to see yet. It's super secret, like Black Ops. And then sometimes people, because they have all their cell phones and their cameras and stuff, they're just aware and alert and watching. Sometimes people just see things and there's no other connection, or sometimes they're being literally stalked by the DMA infested reps. So everybody's experience is a different one. And because of the lack of learning that today's humans don't have, they can easily be fooled by what they see, not understanding it. So some people do see real craft and most people don't. Most people do not, but they think they do. They genuinely believe they do. And then, of course, in that other category, you have the fakers, the scammers, the hoaxers. A lot of those. Okay. So that's it. Going to 5.
Okay, so describe your daily life. Do you follow a schedule, wake up, drink coffee, and go to work? Do you have family or pets to take care of?
I live in the human world. My only schedule is the work that I do, dedicated to helping this planet, and of course, just whatever it takes for me to stay alive here. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink alcohol. Um, I I value my brain. I don't need that kind of stimulation. I have no set wake up or go to sleep schedule. I can work for days around the clock, and then I have to crash. So I love animals. I'm a huge animal lover. I spend time helping to rescue animals, including whales, dolphins, porpoises, and manatees, who are not cetaceans. But I I don't have any personal pets of my own. I haven't for a long time because of the situation in my own life. Okay, that's it.
So, what is the purpose of revealing yourself now and your story at this time?
Oh, well, I've really, really had enough of some things. As Pigtail Girl knows, she and I have spent years working together to jointly help the planet using some of my psi skills and my knowledge of ancient times on the planet to have a go against the DMA infestation. And we've been very successful. I don't want to go into that really deeply, but we've been very successful. And I mean, I'm old. I've been around a very, very long time, older than anyone would ever imagine. And I've been sort of veiling that because I didn't want people to know how long I've really been around. So I fudge a lot of things when it comes to that. But, I've gotten to that time when I've been around for so long that fudging it just doesn't make any sense. I'm the pioneer discoverer of so many scientific things, and I did not get that information from my ET upbringing. I discovered this on my own, and I've had to defend it. But, I've made a career of this for myself, and not because anyone even knew my background. I received no favors and no help because of that. So I didn't need to do this to establish myself. I'm established, and I've been established for decades. So now certain govs have decided that they're going to so called come clean and talk about aliens and their craft actually being out there, that there's a big question. And I know something else is going on. And I also know that one of the big reasons that I haven't come out of the shadows was, why should I do that? There are so many out there, people that are just talking nonsense, making claims that aren't true. I don't want to be put into that column. That's the bad feeling for me. That's would be very insulting, and I would be terribly, terribly disappointed if that were to happen.
Mhm.
But here's the thing: humans got a whole lot smarter in the past couple of decades, and I'm an observer of this. Even though I come from the inside, for decades and decades and decades, I've been able to study how humans are fed both real information and false information about, ETs, UFOs, history on the planet, and all that. And I've just had to just keep my mouth shut. And now that humans have gotten so much smarter and genuine, authentic people are coming out of the woodwork, who have had real experiences, who have real information, I figured, they've progressed enough that if I come out and I speak and I I'm helpful, this is the right time. This
Mm.
is the right time. And I've had enough of the hoaxers and the scammers putting out information that I know is just absolutely not true. Now, some people who put out absolutely 100% false information, they know that that's what they're doing. And they're doing it for their own self interest. Okay. Other people are absolutely the real deal. And they have had experience. They just don't know really what they've had experiences with. And what humans do throughout their own remembered history is when they don't have the information that they need to fill in the blanks, like puzzle pieces, they make them up. They make them up when it feels good. They make them up from what people are interested in or what they think is trending. It doesn't matter whether you're back in the Middle Ages or you're today. Humans make stuff up. It makes them feel better. It's a coping mechanism. And when they do it about things that this is my area of expertise, I just wonder what's going to happen to these people when the actual reality of what's going on just hits them. It's going to be devastating. So I thought maybe I can be a little bit helpful, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have good people who mean well, who just need a little bit of tweaking correction so they don't lead people off of a cliff, which I see happening. And when you get led off of a cliff in something like this, which is the actual story of the human race, the actual story of the planet and what's happening right now with ETs and UFOs, and that's all I'm talking about, really. Those people who believe that and follow that person or that trend or that whole thing, they're like taken out of action. They think they're doing good for the planet. They're helping the planet. They're being caretakers of the planet. But in reality, the opposite is happening. They're being nullified. Oh, I'd like to see all this good intent and people's human goodwill actually not be nullified, but be quantified to be useful. And Pigtail Girl, you and I know how easy that is to do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go on to the next.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also add that I just think that both
okay.
you and I are very, very passionate about the truth.
Yeah.
And we both share a passion and we hate information that's incorrect, shall we say, to be polite. We both have a reaction to that. And I think it's just that time now where people need the truth at this
Right.
point in
Now,
their history too, not to get distracted by it, but just
right. I mean,
we need the
you
truth
and I,
at the end of the day.
yeah, you and I both know that different people are going to have different views of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I'm just talking about ETs
Yeah.
and their craft and their technology and their presence on this planet.
Yeah.
This is my area of expertise. I mean, to the max. And so this is something that I can help people have a better, more accurate understanding of. And those people who are genuine in their experiences, I can let them know bluntly, and I'm a very blunt person, you know, what it is they did or did not experience.
Yeah.
Because there are real ETs and there are ET posers. There are good ones, there are bad ones, and I know who's who.
Yeah, and it's that
And I can
time.
teach.
It's that time, I think, that we need that info at this moment in our
Yeah.
history.
Well, I talked to you about it. I talked to a couple of other friends, about it. Sherry, who I've known like for decades, and she's one of those people who've kept a secret. And Sherry, I know you're listening to this.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Sherry. Just keep the secret. If we talk about this, just remember that I'm only telling certain things and not other things at this time. Okay, I just want to say that. All right. So,
Next question.
yes, right.
All right, then. So, what is one advice that you could give someone who goes through a lot of extrasensory experiences and who believes that these experiences are outside of their control and doesn't really know what to do with it?
Okay. Well, part of also my area of expertise is the psychic and paranormal world. I discovered the unified field theory of psi, which is the science of how psychic and the paranormal works. So, my advice, just on a very level course, is make a note of everything, record it, write it down, because there's always going to be a pattern. And here's something really important to know: every single human, except for the ones that were meddled with by DMA infestation, they have the natural ability to interface with the core matrix, which is like the hard drive of our entire universe. It's the core matrix that streams all of our coexisting timelines, has all of the data from everything who we are, the history. So humans have a natural ability to be psychic. It's part of your heritage. When things go wrong is that a lot of humans don't know what to do with the information that they receive. So by writing it down, you can look for your own pattern. I, I teach a lot of this stuff. I used to have Starfire Academy until a few years ago, and it still exists, but it's sort of inactive at this time. I would love to either start that up again with you, Pigtail Girl, and I also would like to expand that. And I'd like to have a think tank that deals with all this stuff and really helps people to understand how to utilize not just their psychic ability, but I've been teaching for years and years and years something that I discovered, which is called reality shift manifestation. You can actually pull things into the timeline. So, anyway, that's a whole other topic. Next question, please.
Okay, so do you consider yourself to be lucky or important being a hybrid?
No, not at all. I've lived a very hard life, and I'm like a minority of one. So, I was raised, like I said, in two different worlds, the ET world and the human world, because I was adopted into a human family. Now, there were 15 of us born into this last program, the bioengineering program, which is the last program that the ET Earth Consortium was ever a part of. Every other modern day ET bioengineering manipulation program is being done by the DMA infested reps, and there are humans involved in that. This is very corrupt and not any good. When I was growing up, particularly in the ET school, with I was one of 15. One of the differences in my particular hybrid program is that we had some extra genetics thrown in. In other words, the original genetic panspermia program from thousands and thousands of years ago was the ET Earth Consortium used its own genetics because their genes were sent through the universe. This is what panspermia is, sent through the universe on destroyed planet pieces, asteroids, comets, and other ways,
Mhm.
and landed on other protoplanets or regular planets or other habitats. And this became the seed of life. So, by the right of cosmic panspermia, if that's your genetics, you have a right to help guide the evolution of that life form to be in your likeness, or if it's a bunch of genetics thrown in, which in the case of Earth, that is an understatement. But when it came to the original of Earth, I'm talking millions of years ago, panspermia was wild. There was no guidance, and the ET Earth Consortium weren't even at a stage in their evolution where they were anything but very primitive themselves. So it took them a while to grow up, evolve, have space flight in the extreme to the max, and they were able to follow their own panspermia rights. So by the time that they came to the planet thousands and thousands of years ago, they already came to a planet that was teeming with life. And we'll get into that a little bit later as to what that is, and Pangea and all those good stuff. So my life was very difficult and remains very, very difficult. I was adopted into a family that was not the correct family. In fact, Pigtail Girl, you and I did a show in which called Pigtail Girl and Starfire Get Real. And I talk quite a bit about the difficulty of being raised in a family who doesn't like you, is afraid of you, punishes you when you even try to be who you are. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this can relate. But imagine, just in this analogy, loving animals. I'm a huge animal lover. Imagine being adopted into a family who hates animals. And when you try to have animals, you're chastised, you're punished, or and that happened. So I'd have to always sneak animals in. It was a terrible, terrible situation. Now, every one of the 15 of us who were born as these hybrids, the new program, one of the big things that we were designed to be are what are called brainiacs. We're really, really, really brain smart, smarter than humans. I don't mean that to be persnickety or snobby. It's just that's how we were raised to be because we were raised to solve problems. We're problem solvers, and we have special gifts. And one of the things that we can do is we don't really have a separation between left brain thinking and right brain thinking. It's all merged. It's very harmonious. So not only am I a very powerful psychic, but I'm very clear. I understand what it is I'm seeing, and I can also discover things in science. I love music. Music is huge to me. Very artistic, all those things. But then I was also utilized, like the others, to, like I said, solve tremendous problems on the planet. So we can see pieces of puzzles that humans can't. We can put things together and we can suggest how to solve those problems. That's one of the things that I've done all my life. When I was very young and I was thrust into this family to be adopted, all of the 15 that looked human, that could pass as humans, were adopted into human families. And everyone except me had a great experience. But something happened along the road for me. And the family that was supposed to adopt me at the very last minute, the woman, she got pregnant. And so I was handed off to somebody else. And all of these families that were in line to be adopted, they were vetted so that the child that they were going to get matched who they were. This family was not really brief. They were not vetted. And even though I'll just say that there is a secret group, you don't know them. If you knew them, they wouldn't be secret. But for centuries, they've been part of something which is knowing the history of the planet. These are human hybrids, but like I said, every human is an ET hybrid, and they did something very special that led to this latest program that I'm part of. So the husband and wife, the family that I was adopted into, they were part of this contingency, but they didn't know very much. They were like on the fringe, the outskirts of it. So they stepped up and they adopted me, but this is what happens when you don't match up the right kid with the right family. And it was terrible for me when I was really young, up into my tweens. I was a little bit of a snob. I was forced to first I went to the ET school, loved it, loved it. That was my happy place. Then I'd be back in the human world and I'd act, I'd have to go to school, their school, and it was just so much nonsense. And I'd have to deal with that. And so I'd look around me and I'd see all these other human kids and they were so clueless. And I really had very little compassion for them. I loved animals, but I'd see all the abuses and the ignorance. And then one day all that changed. Something happened. And I suddenly realized that if I was going to continue thinking that I was superior and acting that way, I'd be a terrible person. That the whole reason why I was born would be I'd be throwing it down the drain. Love the earth, love humans, love the ETs, love, 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 but don't accept everything that they do. So I began to change my whole personality. I
Mm.
began to change the way I looked at the planet. I began to change the way I looked at humans. And when I did that, I learned that people can be wonderful. They can be dumb, they can be stupid, but they're really not. That's just because they've been limited in what they're learning. They don't know. So I developed a great empathy for humans, a great empathy. But I also became very critical of those who harm others, whether humans or ETs or animals. So I have a dividing line. I have my limits, but I learned to love the planet and love people. And my my early personality of thinking that I was just so superior, leave me alone, that's long gone. That's decades gone. I haven't been that person in so long. So just know this. I'm here to help.
You grew up.
I've always been here.
You just grew
I,
up.
I grew up, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, in the ET school, we were taught how to live in the human world. It wasn't like I was, you know, didn't learn, but I wasn't having the same experience as the other human-looking kids. And so what I was being taught in the ET school just didn't matter. And I would question about this, and nobody was helping me. Nobody was helping me in the ET school, not even those that I really cared about. The ET and or the human teachers. It was a combined school. So I just had to teach myself.
In a way, I think you've kind of answered a little bit on these next two questions. So I'm going to
Okay.
read them both out, but I feel like you've touched quite a lot on this in that last segment. So, what is
Okay.
your role in the grand scheme of things? Do you have the freedom to do what you want in general? And what plans do you have in the future that relate to your status as a hybrid? What
Okay. Well,
ability, what
I'm
ability,
gonna add.
talents, and
Yeah, go ahead.
characteristics? Sorry, because I think this
Right.
is all sort of together. And if you have
Right.
any abilities, talents, or characteristics that are not considered normal to the average person, how do you apply them in your daily life?
Well, yes, you're right. I have touched on them, and I'm well known for my ability for precognition to see the future. That's documented. We did a show on this about precognition, and I had encourage people to watch that show. You'll learn a lot more about my abilities. But again, I did all of this without ever having to step out of the shadows and say, I'm who I actually am. And now I am. And as far as the last thing, do I have freedom to do what I want? No, I don't. There are forces that are not going to like the fact that I've opened my mouth and stepped out of the shadows. So, to those forces, some of them are forces that I respect, and some of them are forces that I don't respect. To the forces that I respect, don't worry. I know what I can and can't say. You know, it's okay. To those who have always been a nemesis, well, now that I've stepped out from the shadows, I am hoping against hope that a whole bunch of humans will gather around me. And the more humans that do that, the less of a threat you are to me. And that's all I can say about that. I hope people will embrace what I'm saying, embrace that I've stepped out from the shadows. And in being public, I'm safer.
Hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And I suppose in the grand scheme of things, like you were really created to, like you were saying, being a problem solver or help make the world a better place, really, I feel. And even though I don't know you being actively part of a program as such, but like as your destiny, and I hope with me as well that we're really here to make the world a better place, really, aren't we?
Working with humans is very special to me because they are the future of the planet. They were created to be the caretakers of the earth, and they're not really allowed to do that right now
Mm,
in a correct fashion, and I wanna see that, and I know you do too.
yeah.
Um, I wanna see the planet given back to humans in a way that is correct and logical and not filled with DMA evil,
That's it.
because that's what it is. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. So Kirk asked, do all hybrids live among us, or are there some in special locations, bases?
Well, I have covered part of that. If a hybrid, well, all humans are ET hybrids, so there you go on that one. As far as myself, as the show progresses, you're going to see some pictures of that. If you look like a human, you can live among them. If you don't, you don't. Yes, there are bases. There are bases in all sorts of places. That's it.
Okay. So Barry asked, what is the purpose of hybrids?
Well, again, covered. Everybody's a hybrid. That's how modern day humans were created.
Well, maybe it would be a good question to ask, what would be the purpose of the negative hybrids?
Ah, okay. Then to do that, I'm going to go back a little bit into the beginning of the panspermia. And as I said, when the ET Earth Consortium came, they really had to do a lot of corrective work. And so there was life here before, and there were very, very early hominids which had not evolved or developed properly, talking a very long time ago. Okay. Now, I also want to point out to people that modern day humans, well, apes, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, monkeys are not the direct ancestors of humans. That's not correct. Um, Modern day science knows that. So you can look this up yourself. But there was a common ancestor, and then there was a split. And it's that split that gave the ET Earth Consortium an opportunity to make corrections. But by that time, by the time the ET Earth Consortium came, there were already Neanderthals and earlier hominids that were their genetics, but planet Earth was then and still is an evolving planet. It's very volatile with your earthquakes, your volcanoes, your storms, your um, the splitting of Pangea into the seven continents. At the time that Pangea existed on the planet, no hominids were around. There was just um, sea life and land life and a lot of flora and fauna, and it was all just out of control. When Pangea split up, maybe millions of years ago, it's after that that hominids began to be created. Now, it's really still kind of unknown why that happened when the panspermia was not conducive to creating hominids or anyone in the likeness of the ETs whose genetics genes this was. So that's still something that's, I mean, this happened, like I said, before the ET Earth Consortium were grown-ups. And they didn't have space flight. They didn't know about any of this. So by the time they get to Earth, they're confronted with this very early hominid, and these in no way were expressions of themselves, not even in combination. So they had to work really, really hard to weed out the hominids which should go no further. They should not develop any further. And so they were isolated. And then you have your Neanderthals, your Denisovans, and others who interbred with other hominids and this created a further problem. So what the ET Earth Consortium had to work with was working with various species of hominids, which they would have never created from their own genetics had they been here on the planet in the beginning. But they weren't. Water under the bridge. And so the humans that you have today, some of them still, you can find Neanderthal genes, Tenosavan genes, other genes from the species. But what you're not going to find are gorillas, apes, monkey genes, because, like I said, hominids, Homo sapien sapien, which is who humans are today, are not direct descendants of any of those little critters. But what humans also don't realize is that when they're born onto the planet, it's a really wacky planet. I mean, flora and fauna, all of these various species of things should not be existing at the same time. Evolution is real. And so when you're evolving, even though you have 7 continents split off from Pangea, that was a solid piece of land surrounded by what was called the Tethys Sea, humans are put into a world that is really just crazy. It's just bizarro world. All these different people, all these different languages. You have Homo sapiens sapien living at the same time as gorillas, orangutans, chimpanzees, and bonobos. Chimpanzees and bonobos are the closest genetically to the modern day human, but that's only because of the craziness of this out of control evolution that happened. So, and there's of course Australopithecus, the big giant, your Bigfoot. They shouldn't be all existing at the same time at all. But they are. That's a huge red flag that something's not right on planet Earth.
Why is that a red flag though? Why is it weird to have many different species coexisting at the same time?
Well, you don't have a chimpanzee and a bonobo and an ape and gorilla, monkeys at the same time as a Homo sapien sapien. You just don't. Evolution would not permit it. Normal evolution would have phased out the monkeys, the chimps, and the apes.
Right.
Okay? They would be phased out, and then whichever family line, split off and raised up would be the ones who survive. So you're not going to have them at the same time. This is millions of years we're talking about since the monkeys, the apes, and all them have been on the planet, evolving from the panspermia of the ET Earth Consortium before they were even the ET Earth Consortium.
Mm-hmm.
So you shouldn't be having these two critters at the same time. And the monkeys, the apes, the chimps, they've basically stopped evolving a long time ago. Humans still evolving. So it's just crazy.
Right.
It's just crazy. And I know listen, I know a whole lot more than I'm talking about. I'm doing my best to just talk simple plain, okay?
Uh-huh.
But, in ET school, I learned, thousands of times more information than this. And then if humans can embrace me, I'd be more than happy to share my knowledge. But if they don't want to embrace me, I'll clam up and that'll be that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, please continue with the questions.
Okay, so where are we? Let me see. Mike asked, have you ever been on an ET ship?
Loads of them. I sure do, and I know how they work. But only the ET Earth Consortium, I might add.
Right. Okay.
And I want to add. I just want to add one more thing here, okay? Because they'll see this when they see the images of the ET Earth Consortium.
Mm-hmm.
There are many different types of ET reptilians. The ones who are infested with the DMA, that's just one type. But there's another type that looks just exactly like them, but they're part of the ET Earth Consortium. They're the good guys. They're not infested with the DMA. So, and ET reps can have slightly different looks. You'll see this when you see the images, when people see the images. I just want humans to know that not every single rep, you know, is part of the evil that's, come onto the planet thousands of years ago. So I just wanted to mention that, okay?
Yeah, that's important to know. I think that's
Yeah, very
important to
important to
point
know.
out. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so when I read about or hear about people just putting all reptilian ETs into one basket, they're all evil, they're here to take over the planet. No. Know your ETs. And I can help with that.
Yeah, that's what we're
Go
here
ahead.
to do on this
Right. What
podcast,
we're here to
hopefully.
do. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when
Okay.
people report seeing UFOs or UAPs, can you tell which sightings involve real ET ships or technology and which don't?
Right. Well, as I was explaining in an earlier question, yeah. I mean, well, I can tell. I mean, I know the difference between a real craft, whose craft that is, and whether there's any human connection to that. I know what they look like when they're on, when they're off. So yeah, I can tell.
So I was just actually going to add, so my description of the sort of silver saucer shape with no windows, very kind of not that large with lights, did that ring any bells for you?
That's uh, that's the ET Earth Consortium.
That is? Oh, it's
Yeah.
good to know because I've never really known because, of course, there's that part of my mind that's like, well, is it humans? Is it military? Is it
Mm.
ETs? Because I never saw who was driving it. So
No, think
I
of when you're
didn't.
talking about in the mid 1990s for you, right?
Mm.
Okay, there wasn't even CGI, special effects. What tech do you really think that humans have that could have created that?
Because we hear stories of like way back in the mid 1930s, that there were groups of humans that were trying to create crafts, shall we say, and that may have been something that was going on in the background that we weren't really aware of, up to this day.
Well, actually, something like that did happen
Mm,
back in the 1940s, particularly
mm,
um, after the end of World War II, something called Operation Paperclip. But that's a whole other story.
mm,
Um, what for the purposes of what I'm talking about now, a certain country and group of people who were creating super rockets and super weapons. The rumor is, or the belief by some is that they got these from ETs that were helping them. No, they did not. Um, you and I actually covered this in another podcast. I think it's the one on precognition. People should go watch it because I show where the idea came from of these people to build these ships and these super rockets. It's Nikola Tesla.
mhm.
Not directly from Nikola, because he would never have done that, but he had patents. And so there was a particular scientist, a guy, German, who knew about that. And he made himself a big shot and created some things like the bell that were way out of control.
Mm,
So yeah, they really they had a mythology that they totally believed in, that they came from Atlantis and they were part of ETs and all sorts of things. And so much of it is just their imagination. They never had a ship. It did not happen. No, no, no. So that's that.
okay.
That's that for them. But, you know, there are humans on this planet who do have very advanced craft that can fly from here to the moon and at least one other planet, Mars. And that's been around since at least the 60s that they've had that capability. So, if you're asking, gee, was the craft that you saw human made? No, because they were not flying them into inhabited areas. They've been seen sometimes by humans. But listen, there was a time when the B-2 stealth bomber was not known by humans, and at certain angles, if you saw it flying by accident, it would look like a flying saucer, just from a head-on
Yeah.
angle.
Mm.
And that was very often mistaken for UFO. And the Gov just allowed that, understandably, so that other parties would not know that they were developing something so neat. So, they have different parties, they have different inventions, they have different companies working on different things. And some of it is reversed engineered stuff, but what you saw was the real deal.
Excellent. Okay, so Sharon asked, when did you realize that you were a hybrid? As a child, an infant, or a young adult?
Infant, as an infant.
I guess you always knew, right?
Yeah, I always knew. And
Mm.
by the way, as an infant, my brain was, intact and functioning. So, and also telepathy was very big. I didn't actually speak words until I was 2 years old in that family. But when I was in the ET school, I learned a lot of words, but telepathy was a real big deal. And telepathy, real telepathy, isn't just hearing a word. It's you get an image, a whole story. Somebody can feed an entire piece of history into your head in a blink of an eye.
Wow.
And that's how we were taught. It's like from infancy, all of this information was downloaded. I'm really,
Mm.
really smart. I just am. And any other person like me, I don't know where the other 14 are. I've lost contact with them, but they would be like me in one way, shape, or another. Okay, so that's that.
And I presume, though, that any humans that were sort of adults and involved in that hybrid, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, what they were doing back then with
Bioengineering.
you, yeah,
Bioengineering.
with
Mhm.
wouldn't really be alive anymore.
If anybody from that time is still alive, it's because they were graced with help from the ET Earth Consortium to extend their lives. But as far as I'm concerned, because I have looked for them since I was an adult.
Mm.
Now we're talking many decades. Okay. We're talking 1900s early. So there's nothing I would like better than not to be a party of one. One of the reasons that I also decided to come out of the shadows is I've been actively looking for the other 14 kids who would be grown now. I don't know where they went. I can no longer feel them, sense them. I don't know if they're alive or dead. Some of them, because of how they look, and you'll see in a moment what they look like besides myself. I'm hoping that by coming out of the shadows, this podcast will spread far and wide. And if any of them are still alive, I know that they would have access to, the net.
Mm.
They would want to.
They can
Uh,
get in touch.
Knowledge and commit. They'll find me. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll find me. And it's the same name, Starfire, and that would be such an incredible thing for me to experience. And as far as anyone who's alive today, even knowing that I exist, who might have been part of that program,
The program.
same
That's the
thing.
word I was looking for. The
Yeah,
program.
yeah. It's a program.
Yeah.
Um, I would hope that there are, files, information. Um, but when I see certain people coming out of sort of more modern day UFO um, mill and gov situations, I'm not going to name who these people are. Um, I'm just assuming they have no idea who I am because I've never been contacted. I don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be thinking that if they had that kind of clearance or information, they would have reached out in some way, just like others have privately.
Yeah.
So, okay, next.
Okay. Well, this is quite a interesting question from Irina.
Mhm.
She asks, "How is humanity going to end?"
Well, Irina is a brilliant woman who has stories of her own. And so I really respect her. So her question is understandable to me. She's a very caring person. Irina, humanity is not going to end in any way, shape, or form. It will evolve and continue. It's not going to reach entropy. As far as what they do on the planet, humans have destroyed themselves numbers of times, and the core matrix resurrects the planet just without the tragedy. There have been asteroid hits, comets, humans and their energy have been nuking. And then when the DMA infested reps overwhelmed the planet, the ET Earth Consortium took them on. And there was a great and terrible conflict in which the planet was destroyed and some other things in our solar system. But the core matrix reconstructed us, and here we are. So humanity has a destiny, and it's to get rid of the DMA. That's really important so that it can regain its true nature, its true self, which at its very core is a sentient soul. Even the planet itself is a sentient soul. All planets that have life forms on it are sentient souls. We are a collective, okay? We are one. That's why the caretakers. So even though humans can be really, really dumb about how they treat each other, a lot of this is the influence of the DMA reps and their human minions. So that's what needs to be changed. But the good news is there's been a turn in the tide, and something really interesting is going to happen shortly.
I
Okay,
just
next.
wanted to ask, you talk about the DMA infested reps. Did they have anything to do with the Anunnaki? Who were the
Okay.
Anunnaki in this story? Were they infested? Were they the good guys?
Okay. Thank you for asking. Because I know that you wrote a
Yeah, because I
long
think
article
people
that you
really want
posted.
to know about this group.
Okay. Well, okay, this is really important to understand. I'll kind of put it in generalish terms. Um, as I mentioned earlier in the show, the original the ET human hybrids were created from the ET Earth Consortium genetics, and there were a lot of members of the ET Earth Consortium. And they were meant to be caretakers of the planet, and that the ET Earth Consortium lived and moved among them and never hid anything. They explained who they were, and so humans knew that they came from the stars. Okay? By the time you get to most of your visible, available recorded history, or even cave paintings, or word of mouth mythology or folklore, or beliefs by various people, including the Sumerians, where we get the Sumerian writing and the story of the star people and Enki and all that. That's become a major part of ancient aliens, the belief in them, and that these Anunnaki, some believe that they're the good guys, some believe they're the bad guys, but the truth is they're the DMA infested reptilian, or DMA infested reptilian controlled humans. The only thing that all of these groups, whether they are Native Americans, indigenous from New Zealand or Australia, ancient civilizations, no matter who they are, they get one thing absolutely right. Our ancestors come from the stars, and they do. And they also get right that there were terrible tragedies, catastrophes on our planet, and say, like the Hopis, that there are different versions of the planet. That's also true. But beyond that, it's all mishmash. Humans remember little snips because they've been passed down through the generations. But it's like that game of telephone where you have a row of people, and the first one whispers into the person who's next to them a complete sentence. And it may be, do all hybrids live among us, or are there special locations? That's one of the questions. And then by the time you get to the last person on the end, the sentence has been all distorted. And then when the last person speaks what the sentence is, it comes out, Jabberwocky are us. So it makes no sense. Well, that's pretty much the ancient history that we have. So the stories of the Anunnaki do tell a story of great battles in the skies for the planet, but the Anunnaki were never, never the creators of humans. They were never the great teachers. They were the corruptors. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I kind of had that feeling because whenever I hear stories of war and people arguing over stuff and enslavement, I just immediately think of DMA infested people because
Right.
my knowledge
Right.
of the cosmos, my understanding of what some might call God or greater beings, it's all about freedom and connection. There wouldn't be fighting over this group and who was going to get this bit and that bit. That's to me, it's all lower energy. That's
No,
to me the
right.
DMA energy. Who's going to own the idea of owning groups of people or
Right.
owning land and
Right.
owning this?
That's right. The ET Earth Consortium never, never saw their bioengineered humans as property. They saw them as their children, and they still do because they are still here. And so are the Dem Reps. That conflict has never ended,
Hmm.
but it's going to end soon. Let's see. Zechariah Sitchin, although he made some mistakes in his understanding of the Sumerian clay tablets, he started the ball rolling along with some others who came before him, saying, that the ETs were here because they wanted to mine gold and they were enslaving humans to run the mines. People, please listen to me. The ET Earth Consortium would never do that. And their tech is so advanced, they don't need humans to mine anything. The ET Earth Consortium were teaching humans how to build using the resources of the planet. The ET Earth Consortium did not want to create buildings and tools for humans that they themselves would not know how to make. So you have these very precise rock and stone and eventually alloys from metals. All of this comes from the earth. Okay. But so any peoples that claim that ETs, like the ETs that created humans, were enslaving them and making them, you know, go for their gold in the mines or are being bred to enhance some ET civilization. None of that is true. Okay? None of it, So what I can help do is to unravel the real history and the origins of humans, which are, majestic and weird.
Yeah,
And
because being told that you're created just to be slaves, it's a little bit of a downer. It makes you seem like farm cattle.
that was floated so that humans would think that's their purpose.
Yeah.
And that's not their purpose.
Mm-mm.
No human should ever be a slave to another, whether it's another human or an ET or anybody.
Nope.
No, no. People should be working together with common knowledge and be caretakers of the planet. That means don't destroy it.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Mhm.
Don't destroy it. Don't litter it
But
with plastic everywhere.
and I don't want to take this thing one step further, except I will say
Mm.
humans are being fed nonsense about how to be caretakers of the planet. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that has to be stopped. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question, please.
Okay. So John asked, do hybrids face any challenges when being out amongst people in society? And do they know when people feel anxious or nervous around them, even if they don't know why they do?
People don't always have a good reaction to me, even though I look just like them. I don't sound like them. Once they learn my knowledge, people get, well, they don't necessarily want me around everybody. So most of the people I know are individual friends. I can't really say that I have many groups of people that know me or care to have me in their presence who are more than 2 or 3 at a time. Some of the people who meet me under normal terms, I try to dress just casually. A lot of the things that I learned to blend in with regular people so I wouldn't be that older snobby person that I used to be when I was a tween is I'd actually walk among them, like go to malls, buildings, markets, and I would watch them as they interact with each other, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I learned so much, but I still people still sense something and they don't like it. They don't know what it is, but there is a difference that's very palpable, and it makes me sad
But it's so weird
because
because it's that distance that drew me to you. I liked that, whatever I was sensing.
well, I think that mavericks, all of the people who are my close friends, and that there aren't a lot of them, I would call them mavericks, even though half of the people that I'm close with have no idea about what we're talking about today.
Hmm.
And they're going to be very, very shocked. I don't know whether they're going to turn away from me or embrace me. I'm prepared. When I decided to step out of the shadows, I knew that I might lose some people, but I felt that the planet was bigger than that. And maybe, just maybe, against all hope, there'd be some people who might want to embrace me and maybe would help to protect me.
Well,
Mhm,
that actually brings us nicely to the next question from Frankie, who
mhm.
asked, I, for one, would like to make contact and learn from you. How do I go about doing that?
Frankie, you and I have known each other for years. You've been on a number of the missions, and now you do know me. You've already made contact. We have a nice friendship, and I'm hoping that you won't turn away from me, that you will continue to be my friend, and we'll continue with the missions. Okay? That's it, Frankie.
How wonderful for Frankie to know that she's been a friend with a hybrid all this time.
Yeah. Right.
Surprise.
Well, all of the psychic things and all of the manifestation things which you joined in on
Yeah.
with thousands of other people around the world. This is how I knew it. No one ever asked me, "How do
Mm.
you know that?" They just accepted it for one reason, because I delivered. And Pigtail Girl, without you, I couldn't have done that.
I'm here to
You,
serve.
you. Not only did you make these groups possible that I could walk into, but you you asked me, "Please, can you do this?" So you were really um, a force behind me, because in my life I barely ever get encouragement. Anything that I've discovered, anything that I've done, I do it because I feel it's the right thing to do, and I want to be helpful, and I want to be kind, and I want to be honest.
Yeah, it's not
So
always easy to work without anyone supporting or in your corner who understands, your
right,
mission. It's not
I
easy.
think that a lot of people, including you, can really vibe to what I'm saying,
Mm.
to be that person who stands out, that people consider weird, but you're not. That you just want to do the best, and they're thinking you're doing the worst. The family I was adopted into, they were literally afraid of me. You have no idea what it's like to have to live under the roof of people who fear you,
Mm.
fear looking at you, fear everything you do. And when you even take one step to step into your own true self in front of them, you're punished. And I mean punished. These
Mm.
people gave me a roof, they gave me clothing, they gave me food, they allowed me other things to do, but that's not, that's not the same as being free to be.
No, it's not
So
love and nurturing.
it's not. It's not love, it's not nurturing.
And
And
acceptance too. Acceptance for who you are is so important for a growing mind.
yeah. And except for ET school and the time that I spent then, uh, that's where I got my encouragement. That's where I got caring, and I was myself and I excelled at being myself. And the things that I was taught and how to do with my mind and my brain and my soul to this day are tools that I utilize, and they've evolved with me. But I never got that from the human world to this day, except for a little bit here and there, like from you and Sherry and a few other people who I'm sorry I can't mention because they would have to come out themselves and say, "Okay, yeah, 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 I know her."
Yeah.
um, but I've been on my own, and you know what? Maybe with the show coming out and me coming out of the shadows, I don't have to be on my own anymore.
Yeah, that would be a good upside from this show.
Right? Like I said, I'm a party of one here.
Yeah.
So okay, continue.
Okay, so Walshy asked, oh, this is a great question. Why haven't you saved us from the reptilians that are ruling over our planet, Starfire?
Right. Well, we are. The DMA is powerful, and once they infest a planet, it's like cancer. One of the things they did was they began to, well, okay, I'll put it this way. I, I want you to think of a computer game. And the one that comes to mind is any one that you play where you have different levels of um, of of hardness, where you have a beginner level, intermediate, advanced, super advanced. You're a genius level. Okay. Now, the way that these work is that the computer knows that when you're clicking on it says beginner, a certain gate closes and the computer cannot go into another level that is more advanced than you've asked it to play. So let's say it's Scrabble. The computer cannot go into past a gate where there are more sophisticated words. It stays in the beginner words. So the computer is matching the human in that, okay? Then if you're going into the advanced with the Scrabble, the computer lifts a gate because you've clicked on something, and now it has access to a wider pool of words. And it goes down the line until you get to I'm a genius level. And now it has access to, like, every word ever in whatever language you're playing in. Well, what the DMA reps did is they began to one by one close down the gates to the human brain, so they were cut off from the actual information that they genetically knew and were taught from the way back from the ET Earth Consortium. This was very difficult for the ET Earth Consortium to contend with, and the only thing they could really do was to fortify a small number of their descendants of the ET human hybrids. That's very much what the more modern day, we call them abductions, but it's something different when you're dealing with the ET Earth Consortium. It's abductions when it's the DMA reps. The ET Earth Consortium, it's a checkup. Okay, it's a wellness checkup. What the ET Earth Consortium has tried to do was to fortify their descendants before they were totally contaminated, and they would raise the gates. So over these thousands of years, they've been working to re-raise the brain gates, the soul gates. The soul and the brain are supposed to be working as one, and then it interfaces with the core matrix. But when you slam these gates down, a human goes dumb. And then not only do they go dumb, but in their dumbness, that's no reflection on who you actually are, humans, but in their manufactured intentional dumbness, they also live less. Humans used to live for hundreds of years. And with the DMA reps doing what they're doing, humans now live for anywhere from maybe 35 years to some of them over 100, but very few. And when humans live less, they're easier to control. When they live less time, they're easier to control. And you can afflict them with lots of things, which keep them very occupied. So they're not looking for anything real. And then you have some and let's get into the star seeds, okay? You have some which some of their gates are up, and they're very aware that they are souls and they're integrating with human bodies, and they know something's not right with the planet, and they know that they want to help correct it. And I think that's all great. But after that, things go a little bit wonky with starseeds because, well, we've done a show or two on this Pigtail Girl, The Matrix. And it's very, very important for all starseeds and all light workers and all who believe they have a connection to the ETs to again go back and binge watch our previous podcast because they explain this. The core matrix streams all of our timelines and does editing on all of our timelines. That's actually natural. And we exist within what I call the proper matrix. I used to call it the Matrix decades ago. Then that movie, The Matrix, came out, and people were getting very confused that Matrix was just a discovery of mine, was the same thing as the movie plot line. And oh, they are not the same. People today, people who are becoming very aware, and I applaud them, think that you have to get out of the matrix. No, no, and no. Every time you promote, you want to get out of the matrix, or you encourage others to get out of the matrix, or your mission is to get out of the matrix, you're feeding the DMA and the DMA reps and their minions. Because by staying in their matrix, their matrix is a false matrix. That's what you want to get out of. The real matrix, which I renamed the matrix the core matrix, and what it creates is again, I had to rename it the proper matrix, where we're supposed to be, where we are the caretakers, where we are ourselves, connected properly to our bodies, our physical and our souls, and the core matrix and the universe and other ETs, and we are eyes wide open. Okay. But when you say you want to get out of the matrix, you're really saying that you want to get out of the thing you want to be in. Fortunately, Pigtail Girl and myself and thousands of others around the world, we did something within the past year to rebuild a force field that had been missing from the planet since the terrible conflict between the ET Earth Consortium and the DMA reps. That force field was put in place by the ET Earth Consortium because it rebuffs DMA energy from entering our planetary habitats. But that force field was removed, and that's how the DMA reps gained access to the planet. But once this ancient force field was rebuilt, and yes, knowing about this force field was part of my education, my ET education when I was a child. Every advanced ET knows about building this particular force field because they know about the DMA. So I taught thousands of humans, and some of you who were part of this are watching this show right now. This is where the information came from, and this is why it was so successful. And Walshy, to answer what you asked, the ET Earth Consortium did participate in the rebuilding of that force field. We were not working alone. Plus, so were ETs known as angels. The thing about the bioengineering program that I was part of all the 15 children were part of back in the earlier 1900s, is that there was a very special type of ET whose genetics became part of the mutt soup that we were created from. This is an ET that is not part of the ET Earth Consortium, and their panspermia genetics were not on the planet. Yet I call them friends of the ET Earth Consortium, friends to humans, and these are the angel ETs. ETs, angels, one and the same. Their genetics are in me. They're in all of the 15 children. In fact, we were called the Angel Brigade. And the greatest thing that the DMA fears, besides being cut off from its energy, is to encounter the angel warriors, the angel warriors of light, because they know that's their foe. Okay, so we were created, and some of the other genetics, besides being some members of the ET Earth Consortium, not all of them, all humans have all pieces and parts of the ET Earth Consortium. But my group, but starting in the early 1900s, we only have some of the ET Consortium. We have some of donated angel genetics, and then this secret group that I mentioned that they've been doing it for hundreds of years. They know many of the sites of where actual ancient ETs are entombed. In other words, their last resting place, where they are. Some of them are accessible, sort of, and others are not. But they went around and they collected pieces and parts of them. And so part of that ancient DNA of the originals, they're called the ancient and shining ones. They're also part of my genetics, and all of the 15. So we're called the Angel Brigade. And so the ET Earth Consortium has been doing this help all along. You just can't wave a magic wand and take on the DMA. It is the most awfully powerful force in the
That's
cosmos.
what I was just going to say. You can't just wave a magic wand.
No,
it's not that
no.
easy. You don't have such magical powers that you can just click a finger and they're all gone. I mean, this is a force to be reckoned with. The dark side of the force.
This force has been in the cosmos as long as there's been a cosmos.
Yeah, and they're pretty strong. They're not like weak, small, tiny force. It's like
the dark matter aberration feeds off of the energy of life forces, souls, and physical, and it just keeps regenerating itself. Yeah. But now that the force field has been put back and integrated with the other force fields, including the kind that is the magnetic ones that can repel or allow to enter solar energy particles. That's what creates geomagnetic storms and beautiful auroras. Once that ancient force field went back up, this is huge, no more DMA energy can enter Earth's system. It's done. But there's still a lot of that DMA energy still rolling around the planet. So it's like using it up. And it's sort of like in its Hail Mary last hurrah. And it's very dangerous, very dangerous. And just people need to just outlive it. So the ET Earth Consortium and its friends, angels, have always been here. They still are here. They've never abandoned humans, their children, ever. But dealing with this it's just not a sci-fi script. You know, it can't all be resolved in a trilogy or something. So this is an ongoing thing. And let me also tell everybody, when this conflict happened, the ET Earth Consortium suffered terrible losses. Terrible. But they stayed and they remain out of sight, mostly. And the DMA reps suffered an even worse whooping. They lost almost all their tech. And they do a lot of puppet string controlling of some humans to control the rest. And they've actually tricked humans into helping them redesign and rebuild their lost tech. This is what's so dangerous. They've exchanged their knowledge of their tech and giving some of it to humans, But humans don't really understand that this is all so that these DMA reps could get their technology back and overlord over the humans. But these humans think that they're in a relationship. They're not. They're not at all. These DMA reps do not have souls. And the humans that they've manipulated don't have souls either. Now, I also want to add that not all humans have souls. There are more humans on the planet right now than there are souls that could possibly be here. But just because somebody doesn't have a soul doesn't mean they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that they're dumb. No, 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 no. It just means that they don't yet have this wonderful, beautiful connection. And I hope that one day they can. Okay? I have friends who don't have souls and I love them. Okay? So please don't be out to get them, all right? But it's just a fact that the human minions that the DMA rep control, they have no souls. They're soulless. They have no conscience at all.
If you don't have a soul, would that mean when you would die that you don't come back again?
Right. No
It's
soul.
just live and die.
Right. The soul and the brain. The soul integrates into a body, and through a body, the body is too small for a soul to compact within it, but it actually lives through it. Okay, it's attracted um, uh, to the human brain, the brain frequencies and waves. That's what attracts a soul to a person, an animal. Animals have souls. This is what does it. So when a soul is attracted to that brain frequency, that's what makes the good pairing.
Hmm.
That's when it happens. And then as I said, the brain and the soul are supposed to have an interface with the core matrix, but that's the gates. These are the gates that the DMA reps shut down. And that's what the ET Earth Consortium and myself and you and others have been helping to lift those gates.
Yeah, and if you
Okay.
didn't have a soul, I just wanted to say that it would make sense that you might be interested in trying to put your consciousness into robots, and then that whole idea of trying to live forever inside some kind of robot to leave your body.
No, 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 no. It doesn't matter whether you have a soul or not. Loads of people will have that exact same thought, and it's understandable.
Because, like,
Humans
you
have
know,
short
that's the
lives.
thing, isn't it? That people want to put their consciousness into
Yeah. But
robots.
that's been part of science fiction storytelling
Yeah.
for a very long time. It's part of the human psyche because where it really comes from is humans can get information from their genetics.
Yeah.
And this is what is so confusing to them is that they know that they originate from the stars, but they think that's their soul. They think that they've lived on other planets, but actually it's their ancestors, the ET Earth Consortium that's lived on those other planets, not them. Yeah, a few older souls have come here to be helpful. Angels have extremely old souls, but basically, as these gates start to open in the human brain, which is the all important thing, and it's happening now, they just, they'll be guided, and I'm hoping I can provide this for them if they will let me, if they will allow me to help, tweak their understanding so that they can be utilizing their real true potential to be the caretakers of the planet. So this, put yourself into a computer. This is also an understanding that they're supposed to be living longer. They don't. They want to. That robot, as you're calling it, the android, is going to give them that opportunity. Well,
Yeah.
that's totally understandable because I know the origin of it. I also know that they know that their brains are supposed to be a whole lot more. Well, intelligent, potentially sentient computer gives that too. But the humans themselves can be that.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter whether someone has a soul or doesn't. Their desire for this is normal, it's understandable, but it needs to be corrected.
Well,
Next, please.
I think you kind of answered some of these questions a little bit because Penny asked, "Tell us the way out of the matrix."
Well, just to repeat, the first way out of the matrix is to learn everything I'm telling you. The second way out of the matrix is stop saying you want to get out of the matrix.
Out of the
You want to
false
be out of the
matrix.
you want to be out of the false matrix, and congratulations, that happened within the past year. You're not in
Yay.
the false matrix anymore. You're actually in the proper matrix. Now make something of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So then Dawn asked, "Do you know if human DNA will be turned on so that humans can self-heal and live longer lives?"
Yes, well, there you go. You see, Don, very good. That goes with lifting the gates. So the
Yeah.
answer is yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes.
Yeah, I think lots of us will be very happy. And if she asks, if yes, will that happen in our lifetime?
It's
Or
already happening.
will it happen gradually or suddenly?
It's already happening in your lifetime. I know I've been doing it with people for a very long time and animals, and I've taught it. Some it'll be gradual, and others it'll be poof, you're a healer. It's okay if humans want to delay an aging process because there's such age discrimination,
Hmm.
you know, in our world, but also genetically, humans have an invisible memory that this is not how aging actually works for
Yeah, I
them.
think so.
It's
I
all
think so.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like myself, I don't look what I know my actual age is.
Yeah.
I don't. Um, and I don't, use those products. I know you're very hip on what they
I
are.
do love
I
my
just
facials, I'll have to admit.
right. You listen. I have nothing against him. Some of them I might kind of like, but my my youthfulness comes from the program that I was part of.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. Next.
Okay, so Amanda asked, "Are
What? Yeah.
ETs co-residing in human bodies to research and report back about the human experience and human capabilities?"
No. And I talked a little bit about that reptilians cannot transform into they cannot shapeshift into humans, and you know but they can control humans. So no, the answer is no.
Right. So
Angels, however, as I said, they can shapeshift. They have energy that can allow them to change into forms. Like some of these angels, like let's say somebody's car breaks down to the side of the road, suddenly there's a stranger just standing there and helps them out. Well, that's not what the angel really looks like. It's whatever that human needed that angel to look like.
yeah.
That's how it works.
And no
Okay.
one's living inside of someone else's body with them.
No, I will correct that. There are lower astral entities and spirits that can and do cohabitate with humans. They should not. It's not right, but they can. It's
Hmm.
called possession.
Yeah.
And they need to get out.
Yeah. So, well, she asked as well if yes, is it decided upon before birth? But obviously the answer was no. So
And the answer is no, right?
it's a mute point. So we'll go on to what Linda asked.
Wait, hold it. One
Yeah.
more thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I want to go back to
Yeah.
Amanda. There's a thing called a walk in, and that sometimes happens when somebody has a near death experience and their soul has actually left their body, and then, body's alive. That gives the opportunity of another soul or spirit to enter that body or to jack up a very weak soul. That does happen, but that's rare. That's not necessarily ET. That's usually a spirit being. It's called a
Right.
walk in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have heard of those.
Okay. Yeah. I just didn't want to let that go without saying that.
Very interesting. Right. Starfire. Linda asked, "Is it difficult living in the third dimension? And were you born into a totally human family?"
Yeah. Well, the second one from Linda, I've already answered.
Yep.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up that dimension thing. This third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, all of that is something I just can't get behind. I find it very disturbing because I view humans as living in many, many dimensions. I understand what they're talking about, that they need to raise the gates and exist in a world they're supposed to be. But too often I find that they put these definitions to these dimensions that I go, oh, no, 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 that's not correct. That's not the way it is. So I never use dimensions. I never describe humans or the world or anything that's going on in terms of dimensions. I want humans to open the gates and just say proper matrix. Then everything, all the dominoes will fall in, all the puzzle pieces will fall in, and I'll be more than happy to help you get there. What I what I do like about the dimension thing is at least they are aware they're not where they're supposed to be.
Hmm.
But the whole dimension thing, really, it's got to go. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, and we already know that you were put into a human family via adoption. So let's move on to Sandra.
Mhm.
Sandra asked, is the concept of star seeds real, or are we all deluded? I myself believe I've had a third eye download and seen a starship that was meant for my eyes only. Let
And
me
then,
continue. Actually, there's an end to that question. Do these things really happen, or is it some kind of 3D trickery?
well, I've actually already covered this. I've talked about the star seeds and the genetics, and yes, some of it's trickery and some of it's real, and it depends on the individual. I would like for star seeds to have a different, more advanced description of who they are. I'm I'm actually not satisfied with the various descriptions that star seeds call themselves because and I I do look in and see what they're talking about. I do want to know. I'm always interested in this, and when I see things that just go, oh no. Like I said, all humans are ET human hybrids. So any star seeds that's describing them as being that by definition, no, you're not special. You're not special. Okay. If a star seed is saying that they actually came from another planet, well, your ancestors did, but you didn't. So you got to create that separation, okay? But the fact that you even thought that you're come from a different planet, that's a good thing because it means that your gates are opening up. Okay? All right. If a star seed defines itself as that they have some sort of soul contract to be here to fix things, well, basically, you don't. That's not how it works. Now, like I said before, there are a handful of very older souls that are here to be helpful. But this whole thing of soul contracts rarely to never exists. You didn't come here to fix the earth. You were born here to be caretakers of the earth. You are supposed to be having a physical experience that includes your soul and includes interfacing with the core matrix. If you don't understand about the core matrix, and no one on this planet did until I discovered it and started teaching about it decades and decades ago. Okay, that's just a fact. And if you don't even know about the core matrix, time shifts, timeline edits, timeline reboots, coexisting timelines, and all that stuff, you're not advanced yet. That means you're not working with the full faculty of info that you should have. And I'm here to help. Okay. Then you get to tweak and modify and understand where your thoughts and feelings are coming from and where your soul information is coming from because it really needs to happen. Then you're really in your power. Okay. And like I said, a few people might have these older souls, but not thousands. So star seeds are only special because they are having some sort of a genetic memory. But the memories are limited and often go off the trail, go off the rails. And I just want to get you onto the rails so that you can be in your full potential. Because in your full potential, you 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 become so useful. But if you're not using your full potential, you're you're just sort of feeding the DMA, and you don't want to do that. That's the whole opposite of what your whole purpose is. So that's all I want to say there. Um, these third eye downloads from a starship and all that sort of stuff. Um, no, there's no friendly starship that's feeding anybody any downloads, nor do ETs channel, nor do they have fixations with the TV series Star Trek or the movie Star Wars and talk about ETs and their relationships with them in terms of those shows and movies. Not so. The ET Earth Consortium at no time has ever wanted nor utilized humans to be their, like I said, to be their messengers or mouthpieces. It doesn't mean that some humans can't sort of vibe into a little bit of what's going on out there, because humans are completely capable of doing that. Things go bad when humans don't have the full understanding of the story that they're picking up, and then they fill it in with their own script.
Hmm.
That's where things go very, very wrong. So, anything else on that one?
I think that's covered it. And I myself have always felt as if humans, we've always, from our memories of where we are right now, like you said, our known history, it's all the dark ages, as far as I'm concerned, that we
It's the
haven't,
human dark ages,
so
yeah.
we have never stepped out of the dark ages. We're not in yet the age of enlightenment. We might be
Well, actually,
graduating
remember,
towards it.
there was a time when humans did not have this burden. When the ET Earth Consortium was doing all the managing
Hmm.
and all the creating, and there was no DMA rep infestation, humans were enlightened.
Yeah, then
They
we
were
were in our
evolving.
enlightenment period.
Oh, long gone. Thousands
Yeah,
of years
yeah, I
long
think
gone.
thousands and thousands of years. It's been so long. We haven't really been in that truthful energies since then.
No, no, the gates are down. That's what I
Yeah,
said. The
the
gates are
gates are
down.
down. That's it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you want to raise the gates, not as a pretend raising of the gates, but really doing it. And you know what? It's almost completely automatically. The information will come rushing back in. It'll be overwhelming. Um, and if you're not getting the right information or interpreting it properly, then you're off the rails. So, you know, yay for those who have at least glommed onto some part of it, that they know that this is going on. But hey, guys, you need help. And I'm, like I said, I'm hoping that you will allow me to at least guide you in some of this info so that you won't go off the rails with the best of intentions, or in the worst case scenario, through scammers and hoaxers. Oh my gosh, there are
Of
so
which
many
there
of
are
them out
many.
there.
So many.
Too so many, you know. Okay, go on.
So Philip asked, when I was 12, I carved random connecting geometric shapes into the ground of our school baseball field. That night, there was a large UFO event with many witnesses that took place over our town in Colorado. What did I do, if anything, to trigger this event? The synchronicity of this event and my actions has always been a question on my mind.
Well, I'm just going to make an educated guess, okay? Because obviously I don't really know. But when you find yourself carving or writing out symbols of any sort, that can sometimes be your brain on a frequency that is picking up some sort of bigger telepathic message. And as I explained earlier in the show, telepathy, as used pretty much universally, involves not just so much, words, but entire downloads of like a book or a history, or, history of the world, whatever. So whatever images you were writing down, I hope you kept them. I'd like to see them. I would be more helpful if I saw them to know what they were. But they may have had something to do with the ships, or it could have been just that. And I'm sort of leaning toward this, that your brain was on a particular frequency, and that frequency had to do with the shapes. All shapes have a frequency. All color has a frequency. All light has a frequency. Okay. So, and you all also may be a contactee, a real one. So keep all that open.
And for some people who might have been on board craft, it's possible that they would have no recollection whatsoever or have any knowledge of it.
Most people who are on any craft, whether it's the ET Earth Consortium or the DNA infested reps, they're not supposed to have a memory of it.
Right.
It's just sort of built into the program, both of them, you
Mm.
know. But if you were scared out of your mind, scared witless, that's not the ET Earth Consortium. You're
Mm.
in a bad way. And by the way, there are also people who genuinely believe that they've been, that they're contactees, but they're really dealing with lower astral entities. Some of them through the dream portal. And just know that if you're scared out of your mind, you're in the wrong place.
Mm.
And you can get aggressive, by the way. You can get aggressive and go, out of my face, out of my life, you're done. Some of them are very intimidated by that. Okay.
Oh yeah, in my dreams when they've come to face me, sometimes I have those astral dreams. I've spoke to you about them. I get
Yeah.
really
Right.
angry once I realize, and I really shout at them.
Right. Well, and then there's also something else, which is humans sometimes when they're asleep and they dream, the dreaming brain puts the body into a suspended state. If it freezes the body so that the body will not move while it's having all sorts of adventurous dreams. All dreams come from the core matrix, the brain core matrix interface, by the way. Okay. So the the brain by necessity has to freeze the body so that it doesn't go sleepwalking, doesn't begin to flail out, hurt itself or hurt others. But every once in a while, the human brain doesn't quite lock into this properly. And so a human can be dreaming. And at the same time, part of the brain is partially awake where the freezing system isn't working. And they can believe that things are going on around them and they're having these adventures and they think they're awake and they're not.
Mm.
They're in this they're in this state. But on the other hand, when the DMA ET reps come to take people, and whatever their nefarious reasons are, they use the same entry point as this other freezing of the body thing. So just because somebody has that experience where they're paralyzed and they can't move, A, it doesn't mean you're in the presence of aliens. B, it doesn't mean you're not.
Mm.
Sorry. It goes either way. And it's the same thing with lower astral entities. They can enter the brain and they can also create paralysis while people can't move and they feel that there are negative entities around them. That can either be just the brain at work or that can be actually happening. Every case is individual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Shari asked, there seems to be a continual breeding program going on through abductions. What is the percentage raised in the alien society? And what is the percentage raised in the human society?
Okay. Well, Sherry, that's my Sherry. There's only two bioengineering programs that the ET Earth Consortium has been part of, and that's the original from thousands of years ago, and that's the more current one from the 1900s. Other than that, what you have is the DMA infested reps. So most people on the planet are not human hybrids made by the DMA reps. They just can't produce them. They produce family lines. So because they cannot produce large numbers of them, they work at a control system to control people, control large masses of people. It's a trick. And that trick needs to end. So there's not what I would call a continual breeding program at all. Okay. So what is the percentage raised in the alien society? Very little. maybe thousands over time, maybe a few thousand over time.
Okay, so this is still Sherry, do
Yeah.
spiritual gifts, psychics, empaths, healers run in family lines?
Yeah, they can. They do. It's like I said, every human has the innate gift of being psychic and having the interface with the core matrix. But depending on your genetics, which part of mutt soup you got, it can run in families. Absolutely, that's a lot of people in the world throughout time know that to be true,
And is
and it
the
is.
sorry, I was just going to say, is the breeding program designed to enhance these abilities? Sherry asks.
Mhm. Or keep them from being diluted
Yeah, or
and
keep
lost.
them
Yeah.
from
Okay.
becoming diluted and lost. Yeah.
Right. Well, as I said earlier, the ET Earth Consortium bioengineering. I don't like to call it a breeding program.
Hmm.
I call it the bioengineering program, was was meant to give humans every of their abilities and advantages of those abilities. It's the DMA dem reps which have closed the gates and dumbed down the human race. So the good guys designed to enhance, the bad guys designed to deny.
Right. So, what can we, Sherry asks, do as
Mhm.
individuals to bring about a shared alien human society on Earth?
I don't know. I know that the ET Earth Consortium are very wary of humans. Don't trust them, and rightfully so. The DMA infested Dems and their human minions have done a lot of damage on this planet and cannot be trusted. So, but with the force field in place and the DMA energy no longer flooding the planet, well, lifting those gates, Sherry. That's what it's all about.
Hmm.
And I know that you're on your way. So, okay.
Okay. So, Heather asked, is it possible to learn if one was a contributor where their offspring or gene line went, at least without disrupting or endangering all involved?
No, it's not a question I can actually relate to, but I think you mean if you were someone whose genetics were taken
Used. Yeah.
and used. Okay.
Could you find out where your offspring had gone, I guess?
This would only be the DMA reps doing this, and the answer would be no. I doubt it. Very doubtful.
Right. Okay. So Isme asked, is Jesus one of your kind
Mhm.
or an ET of any kind?
Well, once again, and I'm not going to get into, I mean, whether Jesus was what certain people want him to be. I I will admit that there was a man who, that all of that is based on. And reminder that every human is an ET human hybrid. So based on that, yes. But was he an ET? Was he on a special mission for that? The answer is no. At the time that man lived, prophecies and messiahs and all that were like trending, big trending, all the rage. Quite a number of people during those times claimed to be that. So this is the one that clicked. But this guy didn't start a new religion. Humans did after he was supposedly dead. So, so no, he's not anything special, except that he might have had some gates opened. He might have been psychic. He might have had some awareness, but just only was able to translate it for what he knew of the time. And that's it. He was a man of his time, probably psychic, and that's it. I don't want to make any other religious comments.
Well, it's just a lot of those old texts do seem riddled with images that sound very much like UFOs and,
Well, they are. I
fiery
mean,
things and doors
okay, look,
opening and rooms and beings appearing out of nowhere. And
okay, look, you have to separate a man named Yeshua, who became known as Jesus. You have to separate him from the legend
yeah.
because actually, you know, the whole thing, like with the Madonna and child statue and all that, you could find that with Isis and her child,
Yep.
the goddess Isis. Humans, what they do when they want something to go away is they appropriate it. And that's what happened with the Yeshua character. They created statues and beliefs and everything based on older beliefs that are thousands of years older.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a fact.
Yep.
So it's important to separate. Now, was Yeshua a good man? Sounds like he was. But did he start a new religion? No, we know he didn't. Would he have? Who knows? He apparently died before that could have happened. So other humans came along and created what they wanted to, and it's not the only religion
And
that
here
did
we
that.
are. No, and here we are.
Okay.
Uh,
And we have one more question here.
okay, so Hugh asked, are the UAPs witnessed at Skinwalker Ranch ET related or something else?
Well, Hugh, I'm glad you asked because I love the whole Skinwalker Ranch thing. I watched that show on the History Channel. It's it plods along a bit, but they have to drag it out because that's good television, you know? I'll tell you this. When I see the UAPs appear in their videos and when they're seeing them, they're not all the same. When I see the ones that look like just pure energy, just appearing when they get that 1.6 gigahertz sound wave. Hope you guys are watching the show. It's very neat. Um, it looks to me more like it's an auto response. The ET Earth Consortium does have, used to have, and does have still, probes and scouts, and it looks to me like the Skinwalker Ranch area, not just the ranch, the area may have been a wormhole entry for ships coming and going, and that this may have been a power station. So an auto response would be the wormhole being generated or activated, and then the response, unmanned, unhuman, ET'd craft, whatever it is, goes to see what it is. It's like a security. And then if it's a friendly and if it's supposed to be there, it escorts it back into where the base is. So it looks to me like it's an auto response. Then you've got, I don't know whether people have been recently watching it, these ground round globes. That's the thing that has me the most fascinated. That's peculiar to me. And I'm not quite sure what the heck that is. It's hanging in the sky. It's most definitely been photographed. They've put more sophisticated tech eyes on it, and they've caught it in more than one occasion. And it's this big round thing, looking very much like the Star Wars Death Ship, you know. So I'm kind of waiting to get more information. You know, I've never had boots on the ground at Skinwalker Ranch. Nobody ever invited me, so I think I could be helpful. But since I've never been invited, I'm just a watcher like everybody else. So, like I said, some of the energy ones, I think that's an auto response. It may be that round sphere is also an auto response. I don't know. But they also show helos there, and that's definitely not ET. That's definitely human. Okay, now, since I've been talking about panspermia and the plight of the planet and the ET Earth Consortium and how hominids and Homo sapiens got created, I almost forgot to mention about something that happened on the Earth maybe 4.5 billion years ago when the Earth was still forming, and it's what's called a protoplanet, means it was not quite perfectly formed. It was still mushy, lava-filled gas and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, the Earth is in orbit at that time, and then there's another planet, a little smaller than Earth. It literally comes in and collides with the proto-Earth. So Theia, it's called Theia, And when it crashed into the planet Earth, several things happened. Thea became embedded in Earth. And so to this very day, the Earth is actually two different planets, Earth and Thea. I call it Earth Thea. Geologists know this to be true because half of the Earth, part of the Earth, has one type of minerals, ores, and waters on it, and the other half has, well, it's Thea. It's a whole different thing. Two different planets coming together, and this was probably one, if not the origin of panspermia. Later, asteroids hit and comets hit and all that sort of stuff, but the this this collision, which is normal, by the way, for the cosmos, this collision also ejected, it's called ejecta, ejected big hunka of both Earth and Thea, and that began to orbit around this newly thing, Thea, and eventually some moons were created, very rough-hewn moons. And then eventually there was just one moon. Why is that? Because the ET Earth Consortium terraformed that moon and repositioned it to maximize their bioengineering and correction of life forms on Earth. So the Earth is both natural and a little bit artificial. All right. I just wanted everybody to know because I know that some people do believe that the Earth is that the moon is artificial, and it's only partly artificial. It did come from the ejecta from this Earth Thea collision. So I just wanted everybody to know that. Okay, we're going to move into the last part of this show. Remember, this is just the first of what we're hoping to be many podcasts. But I created 12 images of what the ET Earth Consortium looks like. These are just 12 of them. There are more. I used the best means that I could. I don't have the most sophisticated equipment, but this is just to show you the variation. And each one of these members of the ET Earth Consortium, remember through panspermia, their genetics landed on Earth. So all of these 12 and more, you have their genetics. Every single human on planet Earth has the genetics of all these people. You are mutts, just like me.
Yes.
We are all mutts, beautiful mutts. Okay. So, and please remember, I've spent a lot of time with these people and I love them. So please put up panel 1 of the ET Earth Consortium.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. And now you can see 3 members of the ET Earth Consortium. The one on the right is an elder, and the other 2 are not quite that old. And each one of these people has special skills and abilities, and they bring something to the table. Okay, let's move on to panel 2, please. Now, I'm sure you recognize the center one as what has been called since George Adamski in the 50s, the Nordic. Yes, they are real. That does not mean that what George Adamski saw was real, but these ETs that do have a look like this, they are very, very real. Okay. Now, I want to bring your attention to the image on the right. That's a type of reptilian ET. The nicest people you'd ever want to know.
Hmm.
And the one on the left is not a reptilian, but does he have somewhat similar eyes with the like slits?
Hmm.
But the one on the left is not a reptilian. It's part of the gray and sometimes gray, blue, sometimes sort of beigey, pinky. But the one on the right is a reptilian. And this person and his people would never, ever, ever harm a human, would never scare them. Okay? Move on
Right.
to panel 3, please.
Okay.
Okay. Now I think your attention probably went to the ET Earth Consortium member on the left. That's pretty much your typical thought of what a reptilian ET looks like. And yes, that is a reptilian. And the ET reps that are DMA infested look very similar to this. And I'd be hard pressed for any human to be able to tell them apart unless actions speak words.
Mm.
This one from the ET Earth Consortium is not DMA infested. This is a very wonderful person. They've been around in the cosmos a very, very long time. And it's only because of the way that they look that humans have attached something reptilian. But without this species' brain genetics, the human brain could not be fully formed.
Mm.
So, thanks to these people, mainly this end of the rep line, we have a fabulously working human brain, which is very good at dealing with problems. And I mean problems, I mean physical problems. Survival. This is your survivalist here, okay? Now, when we go to the one in the middle, this species, this line was very connected to the ancient Tuatha De Danann. They are, well, that's all I want to say about that now, okay? Just
Mm-hmm.
that they had very in your face roles in the last stages of the ET Earth Consortium trying to fight off the DMA reps. They were boots on the ground, leading people out of underground safe places into going above the ground. These people were very, very much a part of that, and modern day humans own a great deal to these people. The one on the right is a very decent empath, very funny, sees humor in so many things, and is the lighter side of the gray line. Okay, panel 4, please. On the left is a gray. This is, of all of the grays, I can tell you that being in this person's presence, you can actually, it just rolls off of this person the command presence. This is your command presence here. This is the person who runs the ships, keeps everything organized. This is the person that you turn to when there's trouble afoot. This is a person when there's a mission or ships go out. There's somebody like that, because there's more than one, obviously. This is the line that is in charge, large and in charge, and they're quite tall. These are the tall grays. I know many people have seen them. If you've seen an authentic tall gray, you were not afraid.
Yeah, because I
They're a
think
little
I might have seen one in a vision, like a trance, when I had an out of body trance experience. I've talked to you about it, and I have a feeling
Yeah.
I might have met one of these.
Well, why don't you share it with the people right now?
Well, yeah, it was I had a 4-hour trance experience that seemed to only last minutes, but when I came out of it, 4 hours had actually passed, and I'd been in
Mhm.
the same position, frozen, actually, as I'd been contemplating something about history. It was actually Jesus, the story of Jesus. Funnily enough, I was contemplating it so hard, I was almost time traveling through time because I just really wanted to see what had happened.
Mhm.
And at this point, I was an atheist, and this was my finding God moment. I went into a trance. I heard all these voices. I met these different beings. I felt I met someone that appeared to be Jesus, who told me, "Oh, yeah, you can't believe all those stories," and told me something about history. Some of it's true and some of it's not. And then I was taken, I was on a ship, and it was kind of dark inside the ship. It wasn't a very glitzy memory, the
What
vision.
did it look like to you?
It was very dark gray. I just remember shades of charcoal. It kind of felt cool,
Sorry.
cold, a very solid, not like flashy lights all over the place, just kind of dark and metallic, or some kind of material that all I remember really was the colors of dark gray.
Yeah,
And
it's very smooth and organic, the interior.
Yeah, I don't remember really. It all seemed to merge into one thing. It was just all this dark color. All I
Mhm.
remember was how dark it was actually, and then a very tall, grey-skinned being next to me. But I never saw the face. I only saw the legs and the torso, and I felt like it was in charge. Like you were saying, it was kind of just showing me around. Not very
Mhm.
emotional, not so jolly, not like
No.
oh hi, but just factually. Yes, you can see inside the side of the ship. This is just to
Yeah.
let you know this is what it is, and
Right.
just
These
showed me around.
yeah, these beings are very cool. They're very stoic. They don't fluster. I think they're great. And I learned a lot on how to be that way as best to my ability from these people. Okay. I'm sure that a lot of your attention is drawn to the ET Earth Consortium member in the middle. Has a little bit of an animal look that you're kind of familiar with. Well, this is this is a sweetheart. This is a sweetheart race, I'm telling you. As I explained earlier, during the Pangea and pre-Pangea time, and a little bit after Pangea, when the seven continents split from Pangea, there were no hominids. There were animals galore. They were just unguided, out of control, evolving helter skelter. And so, in order to try to get a handle on it and control it and know what to do, the ET Earth Consortium made sure that they brought with them the members whose genetics were going into a lot of these animals. And these ETs are kind of like animal whisperers. And this group of ETs, along with some others, could communicate telepathically with between the lot of them, any living animal or sea creature, no matter what, on the planet, except for one, the reptilians, the sharks, and the rays. That you needed a reptilian member for that, but they weren't all that good at that. These other reptilian creatures that were evolving just weren't in the same state of intelligence, as the ET Earth Consortium reps. So um, there wasn't a whole lot of communicating there. There was just some barely, and the the middle species, animals, no problem. But when it came to the reptilian creatures, no luck. So, but anyway, these guys are sweethearts. I'm telling you. And, being around somebody who can love and understand animals teaches you a whole lot about animals. And I was very fortunate to have someone who looks very much like this as one of my teachers when I was a kid. So, okay. And the last one, this particular line of the ET Earth Consortium is of the same line as the elder that I showed you in an earlier panel.
Hmm.
I think you can see some of the resemblance. They are different factions or sects of the same line, so they split somewhere. So these are two different types of genetics from a similar ET line. And this particular one here on the right, their genetics became very dominant in Eurasia, and then spread out through the planet. Very, very clever, highly intelligent, and it was a shame when their gates went down too, because they were just so clever. So these are 12 of the many types of the ET Earth Consortium. So you can kind of see how you are that mutt cocktail soup of biogenetics that I'm talking about. And this also caused a fantastic variety in what humans look like and what they would evolve into. That's also why we are all one family of Earth humans, but we are all our special selves because of this. Now, please move on to panel 12, image 12.
Okay.
Okay, what you're looking at here, again, this is me creating something. This is two young kids from the Angel Brigade. These are the ones that were bioengineered in the early to mid 30s. And you can see one has a little bit of a gray ET look, and the other one has a more standardized uh, Homo sapien look. Okay, just
Hmm.
keep that in mind. Now let's go on to the next. Okay, here are likenesses of two members of the ET Earth Brigade that I was part of the 15. And as you can see, some of us could pass as the current humans that were around, and some of us couldn't, like the one on the right. I want to talk to you about the one on the right. To the best of my abilities, I recreated as much as I could what my bestie friend ever in that group was, and this is Connor. I choke up a little bit when I talk about him, which I haven't in years. Just looking at him, my best friend, because we loved all the same things. We had the same capabilities. We called ourselves the twinsies. We were that close. We thought we looked exactly alike. But obviously I could pass as a human, and he could not. And like I said earlier, I don't know where any of the others in the group are. I don't know whether they're alive or dead. The last time I saw any of them was when I was a teen. That's a long time ago. I would so much love to see Connor again. So, another reason that I'm coming out of the shadows is in case Connor is alive and wondering the same thing of where I am. I'm here, Connor. Cut the tape. Okay, well, thanks, Pigtail Girl. Like I had to compose myself there. I don't know what it is, but when I take a look at that that image of Connor that I created from the moment I did that, it I just it just triggers me.
Mm.
Anyway, so another reason that I came out of the shadows is I want to find any of my childhood Angel Brigade, anyone who's still alive, please come find me. And the same thing for any current day person who may have access to my files or the information. If you know about it and you're a friendly, come find me. If you're not a friendly, I'll know right away. And if any of the human of that secret organization are alive by some means, and or if they have descendants of some sort who know about this program, come find me if you're friendlies. And I'll also say this, and this is the last thing I'll say, then we can close this show down.
Mhm.
I have purposefully left out information so that if someone who is claiming to be something, they're going to know this information that I've never told anyone,
Mhm.
publicly or privately. They're going to know this information, no matter who they are or claim to be. So if you don't know this real information, I'm going to know you're not a friendly.
Right.
Do not get on my unfriendly side.
Mhm.
That's just a warning. So, but if you're a friendly, so am I. Just want to help the planet. And I want to be, you know, I want humans to care that I'm here.
Yeah.
I care about you all. Care about me, please. Try. Try. If you can't, I'll understand. But if you can, you know, let me know. Okay? Let me know. So, Pigtail Girl, is there anything else want to add
Well,
before we close?
I just wanted to ask one question
Sure.
before we close. Looking at the difference between you and Connor, do you think the DNA, was it altered to make you look different, or was it just the luck of the draw? Some of you came out looking human, some of you didn't.
Well, from what I understand, um, everybody got a little bit of a different genetic soup cocktail. This was quite a while back, and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Some people got a little smattering more of this, some people a little smattering of that, because they were looking to create people with different skill sets that were associated with the genetics that they were getting. So with me, that was how I came out. With Connor, that's how he came out. Somebody else looking a little different, a little different. No two the same, but it was an intentional. So it was known. It was assumed that I would come out looking something like that, and Connor would come out looking something like that. And let me tell you something, I think he was very handsome.
Yeah, he's so cute.
Well, this is just because he's a kid here, but I saw him when he was a teen. And I got to tell you, to me, I found him to be so attractive,
Oh.
So anyway, my twinsy.
Yeah.
Don't get me started with the waterworks again, okay?
No, I won't. Well, actually, I'd really like to just like a little closing statement. One, I'd like to just thank you, Starfire, for being so brave to just put yourself out there right now. It's really amazing for you to speak your truth. I know it's not easy for you in a world full of fakers. It's not easy to come out and have your truth listened to and accepted.
Well, okay, it's not my truth; it's the truth.
Yeah, it's the truth, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's very brave of you to take that step, and I know that you're taking it because we're at the point where we need to all connect. We need to know the truth, and we need to open those gates again.
I just want to help humans do that, right?
Yeah, as you were saying, it's the time is now really for that to happen. And also, I'd like to reiterate that if there are any of these people left, do reach out. You can find us on our pages, find us in the comments, you find us however way you can. But do get in touch.
I've been around for decades. You can find me all over the place.
Yeah.
Just I don't talk about being part of this biogenetic thing, but I've been out there a long time. I'm only doing this to be helpful and maybe help myself find these lost people in my life. And I'm telling you, if they're alive and I could, it's a win-win for everybody. I'm telling you that, okay? So just being one whole team again would be a dream come true for me.
Yeah.
And if I can't, then I'm hoping that a lot of humans will embrace the fact that I did step out of the shadows, and maybe they'll care about what happens to me. Okay, that's it.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Starfire. And this is just the beginning of a plethora of podcasts that will obviously cascade out of this one.
Right.
So do subscribe, do check back on us and let us know in the comments or reach out to us how you found this podcast. And we will see you on the next episode of the Time Chronicles.